some video from Premier Doug Ford has come into our newsroom reacting to that new trade deal. He was asked if he spoke to the Prime Minister before the EV deal with China was announced, and here's what he had to say.
Absolutely not. Didn't have any consultation, didn't consult with any of the automakers. This is going to be terrible for not only just all the people of Ontario, but especially the auto manufacturers, the supply chain. We're letting China into a market that's going to have lower tariffs than our largest market, the U.S., and I don't think that's going to go over too well with President Trump. But it's going to hurt every single auto manufacturer, every single supply chain that has anything to do with the auto sector. This was not thought out properly. It wasn't consulted. It was a knee-jerk reaction as far as I'm concerned. And this is going to be a big, big problem.
That decision to slash tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles in exchange for Beijing dropping duties on agriculture products is a huge shift in relations between Canadian and Chinese companies. The CBC senior business correspondent Peter Armstrong joins us now with more insight into how the deal is being received by firms here.
Sort of sector by sector, everybody obviously focused on their little corner of the world. I spoke with Goldie Hyder this morning from the Canadian Business Council. And his whole point, he had been arguing this going into this meeting, he's been arguing it during this meeting, that the purpose is, yes, get a deal with China, but do no harm to the CUSMA relationship with the United States. And that, he said, was paramount. Did they thread that needle, he says? Well, time will tell, but it doesn't look like there's much right now. Like, I've been watching Fox and I've been watching CNBC, the financial news channels like Bloomberg, to see what the reaction is. And frankly, there hasn't been a lot, which I think is probably good for the Carney government in that this isn't making big splashing news in the United States of people saying, oh my gosh, look, Canada's made this crazy deal with China. What it looks like is a deal that Canada has sort of gone back to the way things were a couple of years ago with China. And I think that would sort of fall under that do no harm. We're also hearing from the auto industry, but we're hearing different things from the auto industry. Brian Kingston from the Vehicles Manufacturers Association is upset that he didn't get a heads up and is worried about what this might mean going forward. Flavio Volpe from the Automotive Parts Manufacturing Association, a little bit more sanguine in his criticism, saying, look, we understand nobody wanted to be in this position. We needed to sort of figure out a way out of it. Is this it? Well, time will tell. The other big one, of course, is the Grain Growers Association of Canada. These guys represent 75,000 farmers across the country. And the pain that they've had and the uncertainty that they've had, knowing that their biggest growth market, and for some of them, their biggest market entirely, for canola seed, canola oil, that they've been effectively shut out of that for months now. What they wanted was some certainty, and they got that. The line from them is that this is great news. It's an important first step. But you can almost hear the heaving sigh of relief of those farmers as they now know they're not going to be blocked out of that market going forward. Yes, there's still some tariff on it, but not nearly the level of obstacle that they had even, this morning.
And of course, as it all shakes down, part of it will be analyzing when you're in any negotiation, you've got to give to get, and are we getting enough for what we're giving will be the big question of it all. But with all of this, of course, we know that it's a shift for business leaders, many of whom, of course, will now be trying to reestablish their relations with these Chinese companies. How complicated might that be? I
don't think it's going to be easy. But at the end of the day, these relationships, take the canola farmers, for example, that they don't have to sort of get on the phone and figure out who's in charge of the grain terminal now. They know. They've been managing this. This is it's a $47 billion industry in Canada. The vast majority of growth in that over the last 10, 15 years has been to China. Those relationships exist, and they've been really put on ice, and that's why all this uncertainty has existed. But getting them off of ice, it's not like you need to figure out how to navigate the Chinese import system. They've already figured that out. They already know. All of these relationships, you hear from individual businesses in China, like even small enterprises. I was talking to somebody who exports into China, even through all of this, and their relationships with the sort of import system haven't changed in spite of the sort of diplomatic freeze.
And that's our thanks there to senior business correspondent Peter Armstrong. Now, we had been waiting to see if there would be any reaction from the United States to this deal between Canada and China, particularly when it comes to the auto industry, which is so integrated between the two countries, Canada and the United States. It turns out the U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer has reacted in an interview on CNBC, saying the decision to allow 49,000 Chinese EVs at a low tariff rate, he says, is, quote, problematic, and that Canada may regret this decision. And then he goes on to say in that interview that there's a reason why we don't sell a lot of Chinese cars in the U.S. It's because we have tariffs to protect American auto workers and Americans from those vehicles.